Welcome to another episode of Behind the Now. Today I get to chat with storyboard artist and illustrator, Charlotte Vevers. Charlotte has worked on many popular animated shows at Bento Box Entertainment and Universal Pictures. Listen in to dive into the magical process of animation. Hi, Charlotte. Thank you so much for doing this with me today. I'm so excited to talk to you. I've heard such amazing things, so I'm super excited.
That's so nice. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I have also heard amazing things from my other friend that did this podcast. We had a fun time. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, Charlotte, you're a storyboard artist, animation artist, illustrator. Talk to me about your pathway in that so far. Like, when did you decide to do that? How did you get into it and actually be working in it? Walk me through that a bit.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Happy to. So I went to college at this little school called Edinburgh. I always have to tell people it's not the cool Edinburgh in the UK. It's a tiny Edinburgh near Lake Erie where it's always freezing cold and covered in snow.
Okay.
But I had a good experience. I met some cool people there. And I graduated, and it took me about 2 years. So I moved back to my hometown of Pittsburgh. And I worked just like at a coffee shop and a few other jobs for a couple years while I was like traveling out to LA occasionally to network. And I had some friends that ended up getting work as storyboard artists like out in the industry. And they moved out there, and I was in contact with them, and I had a visit planned. And weirdly, like right at the same time of that visit, a spot opened up at a studio they were at. And so I was able to get a storyboarding test. And so I actually moved out to LA with work, which is, I think, a really
that's amazing.
rare and privileged experience. So, and since then I've just been hopping around and doing a lot of different things. But
yeah, that's so cool.
Did that answer the question? Okay. Is there anything else?
Yeah, totally. Totally. So how did you actually learn? So you studied storyboard art, and illustration, all of that in college, I assume, right?
Yeah. So actually, to go back further, so I've kind of always been drawing and doodling my whole life. Like, when I was young, it was like My Little Ponies, and then it evolved Disney characters. I hit puberty, and then it's drawing whoever I had a crush on.
Amazing.
So I was always kind of doing it, and I got diagnosed with ADHD like later in life, but that explains a lot of things about my younger life where I felt like I couldn't really do anything else, but I could be really good at drawing. So that kind of just naturally led me to, I was like, well, maybe I can be a fine artist or a graphic designer. And then when I was looking at colleges, I saw that Edinburgh specifically had an animation program. So I studied kind of generalized animation, not necessarily specifically storyboarding, because a lot of our professors, we had one professor he had worked in like The Lion King back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so really talented people, but they weren't as in touch with necessarily like the current industry and how it's evolving. So that was something I had to kind of figure out for myself, and quickly realized that storyboarding was where most of the jobs were.
Oh, I see. Okay, amazing. And how did you have friends already in it? Like, was that also from your same school or different people you had connected with?
Yeah, so these were people that I went to college with. Unfortunately, we don't really speak anymore because just
time
friends, histories, all that stuff. So but very talented artists. I know they're still working in the industry, so feelings there. But yeah, so that's why I always tell people if they're like on the fence about going to a college or school, I'd say, depending if financially, if you can do it, because you can make connections there. And I'd say that was honestly the most valuable thing from my experience. But not everyone needs to go to school genuinely for it if they, are able to find enough resources on their own, because there's so many like tutorials like online and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, and it's really honestly, and you can reach out to like most industry professionals like me. If you reach out to me and are like, can you help me like know what to do? Like I love to help bring, people into the industry. So
yeah, that's so cool. And like so many animation artists and other roles in animation, I find that they're so open, like so friendly and so genuine and grounded. And it does seem very easy to reach out like that, like what you're saying.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's something I always say about working in animation is it's so easy to make friends because you're all kind of interested in the same things. That's how you got into your field. I guess that's maybe true of other fields, but it feels especially fun with animation because it's like your passion got you there. You know, you're like, this. Oh, yours is too. Like, okay, we're best friends now, I guess.
Yeah, that's incredible. And at UCLA, like one of my favorite classes ever was history of animation. It was just mind blowing, the process that goes in it. History of animation? Yeah, it's history of animation, but it was also like about the whole process to make one film or like one show, you know? Yeah, it was really amazing.
No, it's like, I mean, yeah, that's not what I do. I don't want you to get, those guys are crazy. Like if you watch like those old Disney animators, like, cause, at my school, they didn't get Cintiqs until I graduated. So I had like a little taste of like the paper, like flipping, you know, the paper and getting all like paper cuts and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a day goes by that I'm not like, I love my Cintiq. It's like makes things so much easier.
So I hear this all the time, but talk a little bit more like what a Cintiq is. Like how does it work and what is it exactly?
Yeah, totally.
I know like everyone brings this up in animation and I kind of know, but just for maybe listeners that don't know exactly what it is or like how it works or how it helps.
Oh my God. Anytime I say anything that's like animation lingo that you don't, I'm so like deep in that I'm speaking a different language. No, so Cintiqs are basically computers that you can draw directly onto. Okay. So if you open up, like I draw a lot in Photoshop. I work mainly in Storyboard Pro for my professional work. But I also do like a lot of digital painting because I both do storyboard and design. And so I do more of my like design, all of my design work really in Photoshop. So.
Okay. Oh, amazing. And it's like, I imagine it's like a thing that you like, it's more like a table thing, right? It's like slanted.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I wonder, it's like big. I literally have it right next to my computer.
It's okay. Okay. So I imagine it correctly. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. So what are the different roles in animation? So I know you do storyboard artist, but you have experience in lots of different roles I saw. Like what are the different roles kind of in overall?
Yeah, totally. That was, I would say like for me coming out of college, that was the most confusing and hard thing to know and to figure out was like, what should I focus on? Like what should I narrow my portfolio down, broaden my portfolio, you know? And I would say like I've had periods where I've like narrowed my portfolio down for specific jobs, but then at the same time, I let myself draw a lot and do what I enjoy. So I've also kind of branched out over time, but it's taken years to develop like a more varied portfolio. So I always,
interesting.
I always tell students to like, it helps sometimes to focus on like one specific thing for a time to get that job. And then once you get that, see how you like it and maybe branch out into other areas, which is kind of what's been happening for me. So I focus, so there's storyboard artists, which is where I have most of my knowledge in. But then so my first job actually was a storyboard revisionist. And that's like a really good job for people beginning to know about, like beginning their careers to know about, because I basically I was revising finished storyboards that were coming in from Canada because the studio was like,
so interesting.
Yeah, outsourcing the work. And so then they hired me and another board revisionist, and we would just go through and correct the things that the director didn't like. And so I was learning what not to do through mistakes from the board team. And
that's brilliant.
While also not having quite the heavy workload of like a full board artist. So that's kind of the two things within storyboarding. And then a lot of times if you're a storyboard artist, you can work your way up and become a director, which is something that I'd love to eventually do. I haven't really technically directed. just within my own projects and stuff like that. But
okay, yeah, because I noticed that. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So
yeah.
what does a director do exactly in animation?
Yeah, so a lot of times in animation, storyboard artists end up becoming directors. They oversee, the whole thing. They talk with like the production side of things and communicate between the artists and stuff like that, keep things running smoothly. A lot of times I've had certain friends that have directed on certain things, and they will pick certain sequences that they have a really clear idea of how they want it to unfold in the show, and they'll just animate it themselves. Board it themselves.
Okay.
So they can still, directors can still do storyboarding, or they can, I think most of the directors I know also board for the show. They just kind of divvy out the work more. And I've heard it's a lot of meetings when I ask them. A lot of meetings.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point to bring up, because sometimes the work I think can be more solitary. Sometimes it's like more collaborative, right?
Totally.
Like it kind of depends. Okay.
Yeah, it depends. And I mean, after the pandemic, obviously it's been a little harder to have it feel like a collaborative space because we're all independently. Although I know some studios are opening up more now, which is great.
Okay, awesome. So when you're a storyboard artist, you're working directly with other storyboard artists as well as the director. Is that correct? Is that right?
Yeah. So you'll get a script, and you'll get like your sequence or whatever, and then you'll get a schedule, and you'll board it out within a certain amount of time. You'll get notes from the director. Yeah. Oh, and I got lost talking about storyboarding, but did you want to hear about any other jobs within animation?
Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good for someone that wants to do exactly what you're doing to like see the different pathways,
Totally. And then, like I said, that's just the area in which I know experience in more so. And like I said,
it's perfect.
Really directed. I just have had a bunch of really talented friends who have done like directing work. And so it's all hearsay. But yeah, and then obviously, like I do dabble a little bit in the design side, but I've only in animation I've only done design work for like friends' pitches or coworkers' pitches or things that they're developing on the side. So I've done like more character design work for that, which has been for me a great way of getting more and more experience to the point where now I don't know if you know, but it's a little bit of a lull right now in storyboarding. With all the mergers happening.
Oh, no, I don't know. Do you want to talk about that a bit, or just like what it is, like what's going on?
Yeah, gosh, I mean, I don't understand all the business stuff, but I know.
Okay, that's okay.
I just know that it's affected a lot of my friends. I've had some close friends that their shows have been canceled, so they put all this because these big companies are doing making these financial decisions. They end up canceling stuff, and it's a real shame because I think a lot of these shows are great. But
yeah, and that's tough because I think some of the people, I mean, I don't know, but it sounds like that some of the people like making the decisions are kind of out of touch with the creative process of it, right? It's more of a financial decision that like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so that's been a tough, but there's still a lot of cool things being made. For me, I finished up working on like a PBS Kids show a couple months ago, and I've been
amazing.
Yeah, so that was fun. But since then, I've been looking for storyboard work, and it's been scarce. But I've kind of fallen into doing some more design work. So I've been doing some designs for games and stuff like that more recently.
Oh, that's incredible. So how does that differ from what you've done before? Like oh my gosh, there's so much to this because I guess like each show, anything that you animate has a totally different style and like moves differently. So how does that affect you as on the storyboard artist side, or does it? Maybe it doesn't with.
Yeah, no, that's like such a great question. So it's interesting because I, as I'm doing some design stuff or more character design stuff for games, I'm having to lean more into my personal style, kind of more into how I draw when I have free time or when I realistically a little different than how I storyboard. Because when I'm storyboarding, it's all about getting the movement and the idea And so depending on the type of show, so I've worked in adult, I've worked in children. So I've had a variety of types of jobs. I think examples. So I worked at Bento Box recently for like 2 years on an adult show. And with that one, we had to be very like on model as we drew characters. They had to look like exactly like the character designs. And it was an adult animated show. So they were, very like humanoid, more realistic kind of designs.
Okay, interesting.
Whereas like before that, I'd worked on like a Curious George. I worked on a Curious George movie, which is a good example.
Oh my gosh, so amazing.
Yeah, that was when it was. Oh shoot, which one's it called? It's a Curious George Cape something. Oh my gosh, this is bad. I need to remember. Curious George like goes to an oceanside town, and it's great.
It's probably also the most recent Curious George.
Yeah, it came out I think a few months ago or last year. Time.
Oh, okay, cool.
Time is.
I know. Time for me too. It's so hard to like track. It's crazy since COVID. Okay. Wow, that's amazing.
So that's a tangent, but the reason I say that is because. So then with Curious George, I was
more of a children's style. It's like completely different.
And it doesn't need to be it needs to be on model, but it's more important to get the action and the movement. And a lot of board in movies as opposed to for TV. A lot of times if they're looser and you're going to get the gesture and the expression and the emotion, that's more important than the like staying on these like strict model.
That's incredible.
Where it is.
Why is in video games, why is it more important to stay on the strict model? Like, is it a preference thing based on who you're working with, or is it because of like the function of the storyboard is different?
Oh yeah, sorry. So to clarify, the model stuff is more for adult animation, not video games.
Oh, like always.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So, okay, got it.
And then it's varied, but I find in adult animation the boards usually are like a little stiffer, and it's more about the comedy, the writing, and getting just that kind of stuff based on my experience. And also 2D. There is a difference sometimes between 2D and 3D shows. For instance, the first show I worked on, which was Ready Jet Go, Craig Bartlett's show, very cute kid show. Shout out to Craig. He's been such a help to me in my whole career.
Amazing.
Yeah, he, so that was CG. So I did, and once again, especially being like a beginner working on that show, like I wasn't as good as staying on model, but it didn't matter as much because I had these CG models, so they didn't have artists like that had to completely copy the drawing. So it was okay. But even then, I remember one time I drew this like alien character. I made his like neck just a little too long, and the animators like imitated it, and it looked so bad. And so like I had to Charlotte, you gotta watch your being on model. I was like, I'm sorry.
I see. That's so crazy. It's something we don't like. People don't realize everything that goes into it, which is why I love having this like conversation. It's
totally
so cool.
Yeah,
like a detail like that,
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm so sorry. I'm like a little all over the place with answering your questions.
No, it's amazing. It's good.
Circle back to like the video game thing. Yeah, that's you're making more like a finished drawing. That's it.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, completely. So if you can work on absolutely anything, what's your personal preference? Like, do you prefer like when it's like a looser style, or do you prefer when you have to be on model, or it's like indifferent?
Yeah, it depends. I'm really passionate about developing my own projects and pitches on the side. So I always have a million things I'm putting my energy to on the side. So but I also always want to do a good job at whatever work I'm doing. So if it's a job that's kind of more intensive, I put my projects to the side, and I'll focus on that kind of job, and I'll get really into it and enjoy it. Whereas if it's like a simpler show with like less brain power, then I can have free time to work on that. So But I think for me personally, like I do really love when I get to work on like an animated show with lots of acting and character stuff. And, like some of my cartoons, like some of my favorite cartoons that really made me want to get into animation were things like Gravity Falls, Over the Garden Wall, just stuff with a lot of funny character acting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Was that the question?
So, yeah, no, completely. So what's your, I assume so, but like, is it really amazing to watch characters that you've created, kind of come to life with like the voice actors and stuff like that? Like, what's that like? Like seeing your characters suddenly be people or whatever, or characters.
Totally.
Yeah.
So as a board artist, what happens is, we get the script and we get the character designs, and usually I've had a few instances where I've come onto a show early and they don't have the audio, but usually they have the acting and the audio all recorded. And so we'll bring that into Storyboard Pro. And so we'll kind of watch it come to life as we bring it to life, as we're doing it. And that's why I love acting, because, if you have a really good like actor reading these like crazy lines, just like, you can get inspired and like reflect that in the board.
Yes.
And when you see the final animation, it is very cool to be like, oh my gosh, like I drew that. It's just now it's like finished and cleaned up, and all the things that I wished I had time to do that I don't, that they hired a studio.
Wow, that is so fascinating. Yeah. So it's actually, I asked that question like assuming the wrong order. So oftentimes you actually have the characters, it's cast, you have the voices, and you're kind of inspired by the voices to like work with the characters.
Yeah.
Right?
Usually, wow. Yeah. The process is like, you get writers, they write a script, you get designs, this is in an ideally run production. Like I said,
yeah.
I had one show that I was joining in on the beginning of the show, and we started with scripts, but no audio. Character designs, but the character designs continued to change as we worked. So we kind of sometimes would have to go back on our boards and alter them, or do our boards in a way that they were unfinished in certain areas. But that's been a pretty rare experience. Usually I come onto a show and they give me character design, script, and recorded audio. And so from that, then that's like a recipe for storyboards.
Okay. Wow. I'm like, okay, I don't know how I didn't know that. So when they're casting for voiceover, because I've had some like voiceover auditions and stuff. So at that point they have the script and they're casting the voices, like the roles, but they don't necessarily have like the final designs yet.
I'm not sure,
okay.
Maybe, I think maybe it varies from production to production. Maybe that's the right answer. But, I assume probably if they're casting, they should have design. I assume maybe not finalized designs, but at least have an idea of like what the character looks like, who they are. So I assume when they're looking for. But that's so cool that, oh my gosh, I know you're asking me questions, but I have questions about that. I'm like, that's
okay, wait, so then the storyboard artists, it's more like specifically storyboard artists that oftentimes come after that. It doesn't mean like the designs aren't made, right? I'm like conflating the two.
Yeah, no, totally. It's okay. Cause like I said, it's been a little different show to show, or like depending on how big the studio is. In TV, a lot of times it's kind of like episode to episode. So to go into a little bit more about the other jobs with animation, like, you have designers, you have prop designers, you have character designers, you have background designers. My friend actually, who I was just visiting with, she's a very talented background designer over at Warner Brothers.
Wow, so, that's cool.
Yeah. And so, it's so cool. There's like it takes so many people to make.
So many, and like all genius. You guys are all amazing. So you're saying your friend like specializes in designing backgrounds, like the details of that. Okay.
Yeah, totally. So in television, you have episodes, so you're going to be getting kind of different backgrounds, different props, maybe in every episode. And so you're producing, so I'm storyboarding an episode, and then we get to the next episode. So we might not get, the prop designers might be getting the script and starting to design these props right before we're starting. I don't have as many production friends. So I'm like, is all chaos to me. You know, I do have friends who have worked in it, and God bless them, like, because, you know, they're managing a bunch of artists that are all over the place. You know, you know, we're all like, I'm a creative type. Like you know, I'm like, I can't do math. I can't do anything else. I can draw. Give me a pencil. Tell me what to do, you know? But yeah, so I think, so, you know, so there'll be, they can be making, we won't have finished backgrounds when we're boarding something, but I know when I was with Mulligan, for instance, which Mulligan, I'm not sure when it's coming out, but it's going to be so good. I'm so sad it's not out yet, because it was a really intensive production, but it's like a Tina Fey, Robert Carlock show.
Oh, amazing.
I can say it because it's been announced, but I can tell you nothing else about it.
Okay, perfect.
But someday it'll come out, and it's going to be amazing. Lots of amazing artists on there. Shout out to everyone at Bento Box that I worked with. But that show had more complicated backgrounds. So towards that tail end of episodes, and I was on this show for a long time, almost 2 years.
Oh my gosh, incredible.
Yeah. So on the tail end of that show, we had a ton of pretty much finished background drawings that we could pull into the storyboard file and then draw our characters acting on top of that background and reuse shots. We didn't have to, because at the beginning of the process, as you're boarding, you know, we don't have these finished backgrounds. Sometimes, you know, background artists are getting, you know, they're getting an idea of what backgrounds they need based on the boards as well, I think. I don't know. Yeah, it's like I said, it's been a little different on every production, but yeah, by the tail end of a TV show, or like a well-established TV show, they usually have a lot of assets that board artists can pull from, which helped me so much, because, you know, while I love to push myself and I can draw a background and I've learned how to do it, it's definitely not my strength. You know, I'm definitely like a character design and like acting person, you know, anything like that. And so I'm grateful when there's like incredible backgrounds to pull from for boards.
Yeah, so cool. And by the way, I've seen your characters like on your website and your prop designs. So cool.
Oh, thank you so much.
They're really amazing. I was like, oh my God, like, how do people do this? It's so cool. Yeah, for sure.
It's so funny. Those are actually pretty old, because when I first graduated, I was angling to get into more design. And then I ended up kind of just like falling into storyboarding. So I was like, okay, you know, like that. And that's kind of the fun thing, is like, there are so many kind of avenues and roads. And if you get tired of one thing, you can explore another area. And like, I have some friends in the storyboarding industry who have been working for years, you know, like, and most of them have had times when they've tried design or tried other things, or done directing or stuff like that. So, and you can always come back. You can always, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's such an awesome thing. So for someone just getting into it, maybe from college, maybe not, would you advise them to just get in however, you know, like however they can? That's something they enjoy in animation. And even if it's not like the exact niche thing they want to do, just start there, and you can always like branch out to these different departments.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think everybody's journey is a little different, and I think
for sure,
people getting to where they need to be in all sorts of ways. So like, you know, if I were to talk to a student just graduating, first, the number one thing I would say is like, you know, trust yourself and what you naturally gravitate to, what you like what you love to do the most. But if you get an opportunity outside of that, take it, you know? So I would say, you know, if you love character design and that's really what you want to do, like, but you can also do other things. And, you know, there's an opportunity that opens up in another direction. Like I said, just take whatever opportunities come to you while trusting in doing what you really love, you know? Because, because I love making finished pieces. So design work really does satisfy a part of my soul when I can make something finished and refine it. I also fell in love. Like I said, I didn't initially intend to go towards storyboarding, but I ended up falling in love with that on the journey. So
that's amazing. And I also would assume that with like all this different experience, you're also able to, because all of these roles collaborate with each other. So if you've done that role before, even later down the line, when you're in another role, you kind of have you just have like a fuller understanding because you're still working with storyboard artists or whichever role it is, you know?
Totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'd love to, get into directing more and be on the other side, because oh my gosh, I do. I swear I've even heard like my directing friends be like, oh yeah, when board artists do that, it's tough. I'm like,
oh, interesting.
I know I've done that, like or whatever. Like,
yeah.
But it's helpful to know that. And so when, it's
right.
when you can kind of understand, kind of how everything like functions. Like I'm scared to get a production job, but I feel like it would be maybe helpful for me someday to see what that's
like. Definitely.
Or, maybe just talk more to friends. So I definitely want to talk. I have a few friends that I know are acquaintances that are in production that I want to just ask them how.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you do
yeah, do it. Definitely. Yeah. So for your personal projects, like the things that you're just creating on your own, is there any type of story or type of character or genre that you gravitate towards?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You're asking these are such fun questions. I love answering. Oh my gosh.
Okay, good.
yeah. No. So yeah, I would say like I write all sorts of like genres. Like I'm always developing like pitches and stuff like that. And I still need to get like an agent, or if I want, some studios will like let you pitch if you're working currently at the studio. So I have some pitches for Bento Box that I didn't finish until after I left. Okay. So work for them
but
again.
You can still, I assume, pitch them though. I mean, they still know you. Or is it like,
totally. You usually can, but there's some legal stuff sometimes where you need to have
interesting.
lawyer and agent. I'm like I said, I'm still at the very beginning stages of understanding this process, but I have like a good friend of mine. They recently, like they're just always pitching things, and I'm just constantly soaking up what they're doing, and like, wow, it's a lot of work. So I have kind of genres like all over the place, but I would say like, the stories that I like really love to tell. I mean, obviously everyone's drawing from their personal experience, but things that are like really close to my heart are like, mental health stuff, the queer community, women, girls, so a lot of stories about people that fall within, that type of group mixed with, genres that I'm really into at the time, like maybe it's like a high fantasy with like a, some weird queer lady with ADHD, who knows,
no, for sure. That's awesome. Oh, so cool. So when you said you write, do you also write?
Yes. Yeah. So
I didn't realize that. Okay.
That's my problem is I dabble, if you can't tell, I dabble in everything.
No, but that's, creative.
Yeah, it was always tough. But that's something that I have the least amount of experience in, and I'm really in a learning process with that myself right now. But I started actually. Well, so I forgot to add this into when I was explaining how I got into animation. I actually used to do web comics for years. When I started high school, I did a high school program where I got my own computer, and it came with it wasn't a Cintiq, but it was a tablet, and so it was like this flat thing, and then you could get a pen, and you would draw on it, and it would translate it like onto the computer.
Oh wow, cool!
Yeah, and you can still get these. Like it's just like, they're cheaper than Cintiqs, and it just takes your brain like adjusting. To like the confusion
to like
drawing the thing here and seeing it in a different place. So when I got that in high school, I just went crazy, and I'm like, I'm gonna make so I made a whole comic book. It was very silly.
Oh man, how cool!
I met a lot of like online friends, and I was like, so that was like how I started getting into writing and drawing and storytelling and animation, like kind of all in one was through comics. And I love comics.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
So.
Oh, awesome. So, when you're writing, you're always writing animated shows or animated content, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's in your heart, like in your, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When I write, usually I don't see them as real people. Usually I see
Okay, got it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's so cool. And do you
yeah.
have any experience with voiceover or like voice acting?
Oh my gosh. No, not beyond just, when you pitch and you're doing the voices, you know,
Oh, interesting.
um,
Okay.
but I think it's amazing. And, I want to get
Into it
better
more.
at it, into more. That's why when you said
Yeah.
some voice acting stuff, I was so interested because that's a whole different
Yeah. I also though, I'm actually, yeah, like I totally also want to learn more and get into it more though. It's just like the ones that have just like some have come, but it hasn't been like a main thing yet. Like, you know what I
yeah.
mean?
No, I
Yeah.
totally get it. It's like a super voice acting is like a super competitive field from what I understand, like, and you have those like Tara Strong and these like consistent voice actors that are just like dominating the industry, and they're very talented. But yeah, but no, so I'm trying to like learn how to do it well enough. So when I'm making my own storyboards or my own like projects, I can do it well enough for that. But
Right.
ideally I'd rather have like a professional or somebody like me.
Yeah, that makes sense. You could also cast yourself in it, like eventually, if you're right for some parts. And yeah,
Totally. Yeah. Cause
yeah,
everybody has an idea of how their characters sound in their head.
yeah,
There's certain ones you can do it and some you can't. So
yeah, exactly. Oh, that's awesome. If you can speak to this, like, what is the pitching process normally like? Or is that like a loaded question? Because
yeah,
it's like,
no,
I know it's like a huge process and like differs depending on a lot of things.
totally. No. So do you mean, cause it can be confusing because I'm both talking about pitching, uh, concepts and ideas to studios to sell, and then also talking
Uh-huh.
about pitching an episode where you're showing your
Oh, I
boards,
see.
you're pitching
Yes.
the episode and the like little like, and this happens, and you're pitching it to the director or the people who are in charge.
Right.
They give their notes and stuff like that. So, um,
Yes. So, which one do you prefer to talk about? Like, which do you have more experience with? I know, yeah, I know you're like working on both, but yeah.
yeah, like I said, I'm really just in the beginning stages of like
Okay.
these pitching projects. So like I said, I don't have a lawyer, I don't have any representation, nothing like
Hmm.
that. So I just have pitches I'm sitting on that I have yet to do that process with. So
Okay. Okay. Got it.
that's what I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. That makes sense.
I hope I find out, um,
Yeah.
but but no, with like pitching boards, it's, I feel like I've had some unique experiences where I haven't had to do that as much, or I've been like at smaller studios where it's just like the director popping in and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this and this. And they're like, yeah, yeah. And change this. And then we don't really have
Okay.
like, here's my board.
Right. Okay. Okay. So it's been more informal and like collaborative. Yeah. That's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool. I didn't realize, but sometimes that's like a whole pitching I was gonna say like event, not event, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
sometimes you actually pitch your board, like you create the whole thing that's like a presentation.
Exactly. Yeah. So when I was
Okay.
and I'm trying to think of a studio that I did that at, so when I worked at Stupid Buddy briefly, which is a stop motion studio.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. It was a cool, environment to be in, to be able to like walk past, 'cause, they do all their animation in house. So, and that's such a rare
Hmm.
thing. So it's cool to be able to like walk and see all these like cool setups. Anyhow, that's a total aside, but, so, I worked on the show MODOK over there, which is like a Marvel character. So it was I don't think it did super well, but I loved it. I had a fun time working on it. I love Patton Oswalt, and he was the voice and creator.
Oh,
So that was,
cool. Oh my gosh.
I know, I was so jealous. A coworker like ran into him at like a comic shop. Like, why couldn't it have been me? But yeah, so, but no, so we'd be given a certain amount of time to
Okay.
board out
So like develop
our
something.
chunk of the episode. I think they did, if I remember correctly, I think they divided it into thirds. So we'd have
Okay.
the script, and then one of us would do the first half, and the middle half, and the end half. And yeah, and then we would have we would just go. I remember we went to like one of the rooms and we played it on the TV, and we were, going through it and doing our voices and whatever, and explaining what's happening if we don't have the audio already, So yeah, I think it's
no. So so like in that's pretty amazing. So in that experience, it's like you actually have a deadline, and it's like you have to do a pitch by a certain date for
totally.
like each section. Yeah.
I mean, deadlines are always like a big thing and very important and necessary and difficult, but but yeah, but like I do think I've had a little bit of a unique experience where I haven't had that direct like pitching experience as much, because Stupid Buddy was the one place where I felt like we did the more standard type of pitching with our board. But like, when I was at Bento Box for 2 years at Mulligan, it was such a busy, intense show. But so like at Mulligan, the directors were very, very busy. So like, I'd show them my work and they would like have their notes, but just because it was such a chaotic, not chaotic, but just
like fast turnaround time was expected. Right.
And everyone was like stretched a little thin because it was a big, when you have like a bigger name attached to things, I think it can be a little more pressure on the production. So it wasn't quite, we had like deadlines, we had like scheduling and stuff like that, obviously. And we would have like meetings and we would go through the boards and we'd get notes on the boards. But it wasn't as much like a pitching, like. Yeah,
like a formal, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, but my friend
Oh,
sorry.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, but like my friends over at like Disney or like Nickelodeon usually seem to have more of like a standard, like.
They do. Interesting.
Yeah, and I haven't worked at either of those studios.
Okay.
Yet. Cool. So.
Yeah, you've worked at DreamWorks, right?
DreamWorks Universal. That was
DreamWorks Universal.
So, and that was the Curious George movie over there.
Oh, that's so cool. That's like, I assume that's a total dream job.
It's weird when you get it, because you kind of have to take moments, because burnout is such a real thing in this industry. And like that's something, if somebody like was wanting to get into boarding, that's something I would say is like, guard your energy, and deadline does feel like too much. Like always prioritize your health, your mental health, your physical health.
Right, for sure, for anything.
Yeah, because I've definitely, especially earlier on in my career, like pushed myself too far to the point where I couldn't even enjoy it. That I was like, I'm working on a Curious George. I think at that time,
that's so fascinating. I was
experiencing a little burnout just from even previous shows I'd been on. I remember just feeling really, really tired a lot, even though it was a fun show. And if anything, there was a breath of fresh air. It was like there was, there's always issues on productions, but the actual work itself overall was like, the characters were so cute and the story was so cute. And so I even still have to just have days where I say like, I'm doing the thing, like or just even think about like, I worked on a show that, it was not a big Marvel show, but it's a Marvel show, it's easy to
it's amazing.
Diminish your accomplishments or not be aware of things that you are doing because it is a job and you are working hard. Yeah.
It's amazing though. Like if you think of little Charlotte who probably wanted to do this, and it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, you have to like intentionally not forget that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But I get it for sure, because when something becomes your job and you have to do it within deadlines and within other people's feedback and opinions, and it's like within limits, because it's like a business. But still, it's really amazing.
Yeah, for sure. But no, it's definitely, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, I know. I can tell you're very passionate. Cool. I'm going to ask you just a few fun, random questions. All right?
For sure.
Okay, cool. If you were a professional athlete, what sport would you play and why?
Oh, if I was, the first thing that comes to mind is soccer, because when I was a kid, I knew people who played like other girls who would play soccer, and I'm like, those girls are cool. Girls who play soccer are really cool. And like, I just, so I want to say soccer, not because I have any skill or can kick a ball, but because that was the thing I wanted to do as a kid before I knew that I had no coordination. Yeah, I think so. I did do a little bit of baseball and some little tiny baseball teams, but I was always in the outfield and I was really bad. So.
My sister was actually she's a big soccer player, my sister. Like she played in college and everything, and they're all so cool. You're right.
Yeah, soccer girls
they really are. It's like really, it's amazing. What is your horoscope sign, and does that mean anything to you?
I love this question. Yeah. It's so funny. It's like, I'm from the East Coast, so moving out here, I'm like, horoscope, schmoroscope. And now I'm like, I'm a Cancer with a Scorpio moon and I think Libra rising. Yeah. So no. Yeah. Capricorn is my sign. I very much identify with, as you can tell, I'm very driven. Everything I start doing, it becomes like a full blown project. So. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So you identify with some Capricorn traits that you read about and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
The focus on like job stuff, success and being driven and like, everything, those are definitely like the Capricorn traits that I relate to. But then I also very much feel my Scorpio moon because I feel so many things.
Yeah. Okay, awesome.
What's your sign?
Oh, mine's Taurus. And
Capricorns and Tauruses get along really well.
Oh yeah? I didn't even know that. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, like I looked up recently that's the sun sign, right? That's your sun sign. But I looked up recently the moon and what's the other one?
Moon and rising. And I think moon
and rising.
Like, I think moon is your inner life and then rising is what you present, I think.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. I've actually wondered, like, it never sticks with me, like, which is, like, represents what. Now I'm going to look it up again and, like, look at it from that angle, I'll be like, okay, cool.
It's so fun. Like, even for me, I'm like, I don't fully believe it, but it's a really great, like, stepping stone for self-reflection, I think. So
it is. I think it's really cool. Like, have you ever looked up, there's all these tarot readers on YouTube and some of them are like, you know about this? Okay, good.
I got a tarot deck right behind me.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. I actually like recently, I've like, like my mom, my sister, all kind of like, they were like, they'll like discover a tarot reader that's like really amazing on YouTube and they'll be like, have you guys seen this person? And they do all these readings. Okay, cool. So
I love it. No, I love it because I feel like the good tarot readers on YouTube or even like on TikTok or wherever you're finding them, they're the ones who like they just say like really wise, generalized things. Yeah. And even if it's not like, they say take it or leave it, even if it's not speaking into your like immediate situation, you can still get like such good advice. Yeah. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I've learned so much from just reading tarot cards. Like
right. And a lot of them, like regardless, because a lot they say such wisdom. Like even just like the way they phrase things or like things come to them, it's like beautiful. Like so I'm like, oh, like you think of how they've said it or like and then like some of them also do seem to channel too and not just like read the cards straight reading the cards. But okay, anyway, cool. So you do.
I still have those moments where I'm like, oh, that's my exact situation. Like they're real. Like,
I get. Yeah, me too. Yeah, for sure. And then this is called Behind the Now, but there's an emphasis on be the now. So is there anything that you do to be the now, like to be present? Or is there anything in your life in which some people don't consciously do something to be the now, but maybe they realize like, oh, when I go on a walk or just like moments or things in which they are in the now. That was so convoluted.
No, it was great. I love that. That's such a, like, it kind of ties into like what I was saying about being present and allowing yourself to enjoy.
Right. For sure.
So yeah, I feel like tarot reading is a reminder for that for me. So I do have, nights where I light some candles and I just like, it's some incense, like very sensory things bring me to my present, and just, I journal so much.
Oh, that's awesome.
I journal about myself. I journal about story ideas, so stuff like that helps me to be present. Walks, listening to music and just getting in the music and the beauty of nature. And that keeps me present, but it also pushes me like to create more into the,
right. Yeah. Cause like inspiration comes from those moments, I find, when you're like present, or you're like distracted, but in a way it's like present because you're not like overthinking about anything, and then it's like something comes to you.
Yeah. Well, and honestly too, like that's why I still have to prioritize, I would say, drawing for fun, drawing for me.
Right. Oh, interesting.
So just, I guess I'd say painting is a hobby of mine. So painting is something that's completely unrelated to my animation career. It's not really getting me anywhere in that. So when I do painting, or I was playing around with like abstract painting, and that was like really, really healing for the part of me that was burnt out and the creative part of me that just like wasn't present. Just be able to meditatively just not worry about getting everything perfectly and just getting like focusing on the beauty of the colors and how it was making me feel and whatever was coming out. So
yeah, that's so beautiful. That's amazing. And also, do you know how to read tarot? Because you have a deck. Can you do it yourself? Oh, you can?
Oh,
that's incredible.
I need the book. I need the book for reference. I can't just be like,
yeah.
I have a few cards. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Did you teach? You're like, how did you learn? Out of curiosity.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so funny. The friend that's good at backgrounds, who's literally right here, she was the one who introduced me to it initially, or just like, or at least TikToks and stuff where it's like, these TikTok followers, like they're great. And I was like, what's this tarot thing? Let me just like look into it a little bit. And I'd had other friends who've been into it, before, but I grew up like very religious.
Interesting.
Like everyone in LA, I'm spiritual, big, things. And so for me, like just having the tarot cards has been like a great loose whole, I'm not like, I never give them like the power to like
like real right.
It's more like what how can I apply this wisdom written on this cards to like whatever situation I'm in. So but a lot of the first deck I got, a lot of them come with like a booklet. So I mostly just do a really simple spread where it's like three, it's like a past, present, future. And like I said, with the future card, it's not like, this is your future. It's more like, it's like, how can I apply this wisdom as I move forward?
For sure.
Yeah. So I just mostly have to check the book, but there's a few cards where I'm like, I know this card because I get it. Yeah.
That's so cool. I've loved talking to you. You're so amazing and so creative. So thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, I'm honored. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to like listen to more of your podcast, and I listened to some of the episode with my friend Davey. Who,
awesome. Cool. Yeah. He's amazing. I'm glad he connected us. Where can our listeners find you? How can they look up your work?
Totally. So Lottie Scribbles, that's Lotte, and then Scribbles, Scribbles, on most things. So my Instagram is Lottie Scribbles, and my Twitter is Lottie Scribbles. And I also have a Lottie Scribbles TikTok, but then my main TikTok is Vevers, and that's CVEVS. And that I have a little bit more of a following because I do comedy and stuff like that as well. So
cool.
I dabble in everything.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
Comedy stuff, but
okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much. You're amazing, and this was so much fun.